Hey, it's Emma Thompson, 34, from Savannah, Georgia. Picture this. I'm collapsing on my apartment floor, clutching my stomach, pain ripping through me like a knife. I'm dialing my mom, my dad, my brother Ethan, begging for help. Voicemail. Every single
Time. Why?
They're at a fancy gala, toasting Ethan's new coaching gig. I'm dying, and they're popping champagne. Sounds unreal, right? But that night, as I fought to breathe, I swore I'd make them see me. Really see me. Growing up, I was my parents' star. But when Ethan came along, I became invisible. My A's got a nod. His C's got a party. My birthdays? Canceled for his football games. Last year, I nearly didn't make it. What happened next changed our family forever. If you've ever felt overlooked, drop a comment with where you're watching from and hit subscribe to join me on this wild ride. Trust me, you won't believe what I did at their next big gala. Stick around to find out how I turned their lies into truth. Back in Savannah, Georgia, where the air smells of magnolias and marsh, I was once the apple of my parents' eyes. Mom, Susan, would braid my hair on our porch, and Dad, Robert, carried me on his shoulders through Forsyth Park. I was their little star, twirling in the sunlight, my laughter filling our cozy craftsman home. That was before Ethan was born. I was 5 when they brought him home, a squirming bundle in a blue blanket. "You're a big sister now, Emma," Mom said, her eyes glued to him. "Time to be responsible." I didn't know then that those words would define my childhood. By the time I was 7, the shift was undeniable. Ethan, with his dimples and boundless energy, became the sun our family orbited. My early memories baking cookies with Mom, Dad teaching me to ride a bike, faded like old Polaroids. Instead, I was the independent one, expected to fend for myself, while Ethan soaked up the spotlight. I'd bring home straight A's from school, and Dad would nod. "That's our Emma, always on top of things." But when Ethan scraped a B- in math, they'd haul him to Captain's Creamery for a sundae, crowing about his progress. My 10th birthday got postponed, twice, because Ethan's Pee-wee football games clashed with a date. I spent the day at home, blowing out candles with my grandma while Mom and Dad cheered Ethan's fumbles from the bleachers. It wasn't just the small stuff. Family dinners turned into Ethan highlight reels. Relatives would gush. "Did you see Ethan's touchdown? Kid's a natural." My science fair win? A quick pat on the head and, "That's nice, Emma. You're always good at school." I'd sit there, fork poking at my mashed potatoes, feeling like a ghost in my own home. By 13, I was practicing piano for hours, hoping a recital might earn me a glance. But Mom and Dad were always at Ethan's games, their car packed with Gatorade and pom-poms. Grandma showed up to my performances, clapping loud enough for both of them. The pattern dug deeper as we grew. At 16, I planned my birthday for months, inviting my debate team friends, kids like me, nerdy and overlooked. I'd saved up for a cake from a fancy bakery downtown, dreaming of a night where I'd be the center. The day before, Ethan's football team made the regional playoffs. "We've got to reschedule, Emma," Mom said, tossing snacks into a cooler for Ethan. "This is huge for your brother." I begged. Grandma's driving from Charleston. Everyone's confirmed. Dad gave me that look, the one that made me feel like a selfish brat. "College scouts might be there, Emma. You're smart enough to get it." I got it, all right. My party, my friends, my moment. None of it mattered next to Ethan's game. I canceled the bakery order and cried in my room, Grandma's hugs the only thing keeping me together. That same year, the stomach pain started. Sharp, twisting cramps that left me doubled over, sometimes vomiting in the school bathroom. I'd come home pale, and Mom would sigh, "You're studying too hard, Emma. Try relaxing like Ethan." Relaxing didn't help. The pain came in waves, unpredictable and brutal. I finally dragged myself to a doctor, but Dad spent the appointment checking his watch, leaving early to pick Ethan up from practice. The doc suggested stress or maybe something gastrointestinal, prescribing pills that barely helped. On the drive home, Mom said, "See, you're too intense." Be more like Ethan, he's never sick. I stared out the window, the Savannah Oaks blurring past, wondering why my pain didn't count. Senior year, I was named a National Merit Scholar, a big deal for a kid from our small town. The award ceremony was the same night as Ethan's junior varsity football game. We'll try to swing by after, Mom promised. They didn't. I stood on stage, shaking hands with the principal, scanning the crowd for faces that weren't there. Grandma was in the front row, her smile wide but not enough to fill the ache. When I got home, Ethan was sprawled on the couch, eating pizza they'd grabbed to celebrate his great hustle. My plaque sat unnoticed on the kitchen counter. I kept hoping distance would fix things. I headed to Emory University in Atlanta, 3 hours away, thinking maybe they'd miss me. I called every Sunday, drove home for Thanksgiving, sent photos of my dorm. But the pattern held. Ethan's average football plays were headline news. My research internships were footnotes. Couldn't you do something practical like nursing? Dad asked when I told him about my cancer research major. A week later, they shelled out thousands for Ethan's football camp, while I worked 2 jobs to cover textbooks. I was still the invisible daughter, chasing a love that never came. But something was brewing inside me, a spark that would ignite the night I almost didn't make it. You'll want to hear what happened next. Leaving Savannah for Emory University in Atlanta felt like breaking free from a chokehold. For the first time, I wasn't Ethan's shadow or the smart one who didn't need attention. I was just Emma Thompson, a 19-year-old diving headfirst into cancer research, my passion since dissecting biology textbooks in high school. Emory's campus, with its red brick buildings and sprawling oaks, became my sanctuary. I threw myself into lab work, spending late nights under fluorescent lights, pipetting samples, and dreaming of breakthroughs. Nobody here knew me as the girl whose birthdays got canceled for football games. I was building a life where I could shine. My freshman roommate, Lily Carter, became the sister I never had. She'd sprawl on our dorm couch, munching popcorn, listening to me ramble about tumor suppressor genes or my latest lab mishap. "You're gonna cure cancer, Emma," she'd say, half joking, half serious. Her faith in me was new, warm, like sunlight after years in the shade. I opened up about my family, something I'd never done before. "Wait, they skipped your national merit ceremony for Ethan's JV game?" Lily asked, her jaw dropping. "That's not normal, Emma." Her shock cracked something open in me. I'd spent years excusing my parents' neglect, but hearing it through her eyes made it real. My family's dynamic was broken. In my sophomore year, I landed a spot in Dr. Clara Hughes' oncology lab, a big deal for an undergrad. Clara was everything my parents weren't. She saw my potential, pushed me to think bigger, and celebrated my wins. After I cracked a tricky problem with cell line contamination, she pulled me aside. "Emma, your mind is a gift," she said. "Your approach to these pathways is groundbreaking." I nearly cried. No one had ever called me groundbreaking. For the first time, I felt valued. Not for being responsible or independent, but for being me. Outside the lab, I met Noah Bradley, a surgical resident with kind eyes and a laugh that could light up a room. We clicked over coffee at a campus cafe, talking for 6 hours until the staff kicked us out. Noah was different. He listened when I geeked out about my research, asking questions about immunotherapy that even my parents couldn't fake interest in. "Tell me more about this T-cell stuff," he'd say, leaning in, genuinely curious. With him, I didn't have to compete for attention. He saw me, not as a runner-up to Ethan, but as Emma, whole and enough. But even as my world expanded, my family's indifference held firm. I'd call home with news, winning a research grant, presenting at a conference, and Mom would say, "That's nice, honey. Did you hear Ethan got scouted for a semi-pro team?" Dad was worse, always steering the conversation back to Ethan's potential. When I got accepted into Emory's PhD program with a full fellowship, I called, heart pounding with pride. Mom's response? "Great, Emma." "Oh, Ethan's coaching clinic starts next week. We're so excited." I hung up, tears stinging, and called Grandma, who whooped so loud I had to pull the phone away. The stomach pains that started in high school never left. By my junior year, they'd morphed into something scarier. Sharp cramps, nausea, and bone-deep fatigue that sometimes kept me in bed for days. I saw specialists, racking up bills my part-time job barely covered. The diagnoses were vague: irritable bowel syndrome, maybe endometriosis, or just stress. I learned to push through, scheduling classes around my body's betrayals. When I mentioned the pain to Mom during a rare visit home, she waved it off. "You're working too hard, Emma. Ethan's so relaxed, never gets sick." I stopped bringing it up. Why bother when they didn't care? I kept reaching out, hoping distance might make them see me. I'd drive 3 hours for Thanksgiving, sit through dinners where Ethan's coaching stories dominated. My publications in oncology journals? Barely a mention. At one family barbecue, Noah, who'd come with me, tried to shift the spotlight. "Emma just got a grant for her cancer research," he said, squeezing my hand. Dad nodded, distracted. "That's good. Ethan, tell us about that new playbook you're designing." Noah's jaw tightened, and later, as I cried in his car, he whispered, "They're missing out on someone incredible, Emma." By 30, I'd built a name in my field. My research on targeted therapies for lung cancer earned me invites to national conferences, and I'd secured a $1.5 million grant from the National Institutes of Health. I lived modestly in a one-bedroom in Atlanta, saving most of my income, unlike my parents, who I later learned were drowning in debt to fund Ethan's dreams. But I still craved their approval. That one moment where they'd look at me the way they looked at Ethan. I'd call, visit, share my wins, only to hear, "That's great, but Ethan's team just won a regional title." The pain got worse. Episodes would hit without warning, leaving me curled up on my couch, sweating through the agony. I saw more doctors, got more tests, MRIs, blood panels, nothing conclusive. "Could be an autoimmune issue," one specialist said, but my insurance wouldn't cover the follow-up scans. I mentioned it to Dad once, hoping for help. "Medical bills are tough," he said. "We're stretched thin with Ethan's coaching academy." Stretched thin, yet they'd just bought Ethan a new truck for his image as a coach. I swallowed the hurt, paid for the tests myself, and kept going. No one noticed the toll it took. "You shrink after talking to them," he said one night, his voice gentle but firm. He introduced me to his friends, a tight-knit group who welcomed me like family. At their potlucks, I'd laugh over shared dishes, feeling seen in a way I never did at home. Lily, now a graphic designer, would text me memes about lab life, and Clara sent me articles on new cancer therapies, fueling my drive. They became my chosen family, filling the gaps my real one left. But I couldn't shake the hope that my parents would change. I'd send them invites to my conference talks, thinking maybe this time they'd show. They never did. Ethan's minor coaching gigs, a summer camp here, a clinic there, always took precedence. "We'll catch the next one," Mom would say, her voice light, like missing my life was no big deal. Each snub chipped away at me, but I kept trying, believing one day they'd see the daughter who was fighting to make a difference. That hope nearly killed me. One night, working late in the lab, the pain hit harder than ever, a searing, relentless stab in my gut. I thought I could tough it out, but by 9 p.m., I was on the floor, vision blurring, barely able to dial for help. What happened next would shatter everything I thought I knew about my family. You're not going to want to miss it. The pain that hit me that night in my Atlanta apartment wasn't like the cramps I'd battled since high school. It was a white-hot blade twisting in my gut, stealing my breath, making my legs buckle. I'd been in the lab at Emory, tweaking data for a lung cancer therapy paper, when the first wave struck around 8 p.m. "Go home, Emma," my colleague Lily had said, noticing my pale face. "You look rough." I brushed it off, probably just hunger, I thought, grabbing a granola bar. By 9, I was driving home, gripping the steering wheel as the pain surged. I barely made it through my apartment door before collapsing onto the couch, cold sweat soaking my shirt. My hands shook as I grabbed my phone. Noah was at a medical conference in Chicago, so my first instinct was to call Mom. Susan's phone rang, then hit voicemail. Dad next. Robert's gruff, "Leave a message," greeting. Ethan, my last hope, straight to voicemail. The pain was a monster now, radiating from my lower right side, blurring my vision. I texted them all, emergency, severe pain, need hospital, please call. Nothing. I curled into a ball, tears streaming, each breath a battle. Something was wrong, really wrong. Desperate, I opened Instagram, remembering Mom's obsession with posting family moments. There it was, posted 15 minutes ago. A photo of her, Dad, Ethan, and a crowd at a glitzy Savannah venue, clinking glasses. The caption read, celebrating our star Ethan's big coaching promotion. Hashtag proud parents. They were at a gala for Ethan's new title, head assistant coach, barely a step up from his old job. My calls, my texts, were ignored for a party. I tried Mom again. Voicemail.
Dad.
Voicemail.
Ethan.
Voicemail. The room spun, my pulse hammering in my ears. I considered 911, but my insurance app warned of a $2,000 ambulance fee, and the wait time was 30 to 45 minutes due to a pileup on I-85. My parents were just 20 minutes away in Savannah. Surely, they'd come for an emergency. I texted again. I'm dying. Please help. No response. The pain crested, and I sobbed, alone, realizing the family I'd spent years chasing might let me die for Ethan's moment. Then I remembered Chloe, my neighbor, a retired nurse who'd once brought me soup when I had the flu. I dialed, barely able to speak. Chloe, help, can't move. She was at my door in 3 minutes, her face paling as she saw me. Oh, honey, hang on, she said, calling her son Mike from down the hall. They half-carried me to her old Honda, Chloe speeding to Piedmont Hospital while I faded in and out, her voice a lifeline. Stay with me, Emma. The ER was a blur of beeping monitors, IVs, and urgent voices. Tests confirmed a ruptured appendix with sepsis setting in. My body was poisoning itself. The doctor's words cut through the fog. You got here just in time. Another half hour, and we'd be having a different conversation. Chloe stayed, holding my hand as they wheeled me to surgery. She used my phone to call my parents, finally reaching Mom around midnight. 3 hours after my first call. We were at Ethan's gala, Mom said, her tone casual, like she'd missed a lunch date. Phone's on silent. Is she okay? Chloe, soft-spoken but furious, snapped. No.
She's not okay.
Your daughter nearly died. My parents arrived at 1 a.m., still in their gala clothes. Mom in a sequin dress, Dad reeking faintly of bourbon. Ethan didn't come. Emma, you scared us, Mom said, patting my hand like I'd caught a cold. Why didn't you call an ambulance? I stared, too weak to speak, the weight of their question crushing me. Chloe, still there? Cut in. She called you. Multiple times. Texted you were in an emergency. Dad checked his phone, frowning. We were celebrating Ethan's big night. It was important. More important than my life. I wanted to scream, but the meds dulled everything. They stayed 20 minutes, making small talk about Ethan's promotion, how his new title came with a 5% raise. We're so proud, Mom said to the nurse, who raised an eyebrow. As they left, Dad squeezed my shoulder. You'll be fine, Emma. You're tough. Ethan's got friends waiting at our place. I heard Mom in the hall. She's always had these dramatic spells, like those stomach aches in high school. The door clicked shut, and I was alone again, the beep of the heart monitor louder than their love. That night, something broke in me. I'd spent 34 years chasing their approval, believing if I worked harder, achieved more, they'd see me. But they'd chosen Ethan's party over my life. I wasn't just invisible. I was expendable. As the hospital lights buzzed above, I made a vow. I'd make them face the truth, not with anger, but with undeniable clarity. Their next gala would be my stage. You're going to want to hear how it unfolded. Waking up in that Piedmont hospital bed, tubes snaking from my arm, I felt the weight of my family's betrayal heavier than the sepsis that nearly killed me. Mom and Dad's brief visit, their casual dismissal. You're always dramatic, Emma, echoed in my head. They'd left me, half-conscious, to rush back to Ethan's gala after-party, as if my life was a minor inconvenience. The nurse, Darlene, adjusted my four with a gentle touch and asked, "Honey, are those your emergency contacts?" Her question hit like a punch. I nodded, tears welling, but her kind eyes pushed me to act. "Let's update that list," she said. I added Noah, Lily, and Chloe, erasing my parents' names. That small act felt like cutting an anchor loose. Noah flew back from Chicago that night, his face etched with worry as he folded himself into the stiff visitor's chair. "I called your folks when I landed," he said, voice tight. No answer. They never called him back. Lily showed up with my favorite chai latte, and Dr. Clara Hughes sent a note from Emory, promising to cover my lab duties. My chosen family rallied, while my real one celebrated Ethan's new job title for the second day straight. Mom texted once, "Sorry we can't pick you up. Taking Ethan's buddies on a harbor tour." I stared at the message, picturing their boat gliding past Savannah's riverfront, their laughter drowning out my pain. I spent 3 days in the hospital, recovering from surgery. My parents visited once more, a 10-minute stop between Ethan's events. His college friends flew in for his promotion, Mom said, checking her watch. "Big dinner at the old pink house tonight." Dad added, "Don't be petty, Emma. Ethan's worked hard for this." I bit my tongue, too tired to argue. They didn't ask about my prognosis, ruptured appendix, internal bleeding, a brush with septic shock. Instead, Mom smoothed my blanket and said, "You'll bounce back. You always do." They left, and Darlene shook her head. "You deserve better, sweetheart." Noah drove me to his place for recovery, his jaw clenched as we passed the Savannah harbor. I caught a glimpse of Mom's floral dress on their boat, Ethan surrounded by friends, Dad's laugh carrying over the water. "They're not bad people," I said, more to myself than Noah. He gripped the wheel. "Emma, this isn't about love. It's about decency. They ignored you dying." His words stripped away the excuses I'd built for 34 years. They didn't just prioritize Ethan. They'd gambled my life for his moment. That night, in Noah's quiet apartment, I sobbed until my chest ached, grieving decades of neglect. "I'm done," I whispered, Noah's arms around me. "Done hoping they'll change. Done being invisible." He nodded, steady as ever. "What's next?" I stared at the ceiling, a strange calm settling in. "I want them to see me, just once. Really see me. Not out of spite, but self-respect." I'd been their silent supporter, their overlooked daughter, for too long. Their 40th anniversary gala was coming up, a lavish affair at a Savannah hotel, Ethan's chance to play the golden son again. It would be the perfect stage to lay the truth bare. I started digging, piecing together their financial mess and Ethan's role in it. What I found would change everything. You're not going to believe what I uncovered next. Recovering at Noah's Atlanta apartment, the fog of my near-death experience in Piedmont Hospital began to lift. But the sting of my family's neglect burned deeper than ever. Mom and Dad's fleeting hospital visits, their breezy dismissal of my ruptured appendix as dramatic, and their rush back to Ethan's gala after-party left me raw. Noah's words, "This isn't about love, it's about decency," played on repeat, dismantling the excuses I'd clung to for 34 years. I'd vowed to make them see me, not out of vengeance, but to reclaim my worth. Their 40th anniversary gala, a glitzy affair Ethan was orchestrating at Savannah's Grand Coastal Hotel, loomed as the perfect moment. But first, I needed the truth, hard, undeniable truth. I started digging while still on bed rest, propped up with Noah's laptop, sipping tea Lily dropped off. My parents, Susan and Robert, never talked money growing up, but there'd been hints of strain, downsized vacations, tense whispers over bills. I assumed their waterfront Savannah home and country club lifestyle came from Dad's real estate deals and Mom's boutique PR firm. Public records told a different story. Their mortgage was underwater, credit cards maxed, and retirement accounts nearly drained. They were living a facade, propped up by debt and desperation to keep up appearances. Then I stumbled on something that stopped me cold. While sorting through old emails, I found a bank statement from a trust fund Grandma had set up for me when I was born, meant for college or a first home. It held $200, 000, when she passed 5 years ago. I'd never touched it, trusting my parents to manage it. The balance now?
0.
Transaction logs showed transfers to Ethan's accounts, $50, 000 for a failed sports bar, $80,000 for gambling debts, $70,000 for his coaching academy. My inheritance, my future, had been siphoned to fuel Ethan's pipe dreams. Mom and Dad hadn't just neglected me. They'd stolen from me. The betrayal lit a fire. I cross-referenced their finances with Ethan's lifestyle, his new truck, designer suits, and lavish trips to network with coaches were all bankrolled by my parents, who'd taken out loans against their home to cover his failures. Meanwhile, they'd balked at helping with my medical bills or grad school costs, claiming they were stretched thin. Ethan wasn't just the golden child. He was a leech, and they'd enabled him at my expense. I needed to confront this head-on, but not blindly. I called my therapist, Dr. Lena Brooks, who'd helped me navigate family stress since college. I want them to know the truth, I told her, voice steady. Not to hurt them, but to stop being invisible. She nodded over Zoom. Intent matters, Emma. Are you punishing them or setting a boundary? I paused. Boundary, I said firmly. I want a relationship based on reality, not lies. She gave me tools to keep my plan grounded, focus on facts, not blame, and protect my peace. Armed with clarity, I dug deeper. A family friend, Mrs. Dawson, let slip that the anonymous donor who'd saved my parents' country club membership 3 years ago, sparing them social humiliation, was tied to a shell company Grandma had set up. I'd unknowingly kept their status afloat while they dismissed my PhD as impractical. The irony was almost poetic. Ethan's Gala budget, partly crowd-funded from relatives, with him pocketing organizing fees, while implying I was too broke to chip in. My NIH grant and patent pending on a cancer therapy delivery system gave me savings they couldn't imagine. But they'd never asked. I decided the gala would be my moment. I contacted the event planner, posing as Ethan's sister eager to add a surprise tribute. She was thrilled, sharing details of the orchid centerpieces and champagne fountains Ethan had insisted on. I prepared a presentation, slides of my research, my $1.5 million NIH grant, the Lockhart Prize for Oncology I'd just won, and financial records showing my parents' debt and Ethan's loans. I included the trust fund transfers and country club bailout, not to shame them, but to shatter their denial. I drafted my speech, stripping out anger, focusing on truth and impact. I've loved you from the shadows. Now I need you to see me. But before the gala, I had to face Ethan. I drove to Savannah a week before, meeting him at a riverfront cafe, the air thick with salt and tension. I laid out the trust fund documents, my voice calm but unyielding. You took my $200,000, Ethan. Mom and Dad took it for you. Their house is mortgaged to the hilt because of your debts. I nearly died while you were celebrated. He leaned back, smirking. You're jealous, Emma. Always have been. I'm chasing dreams. You're just bitter in your lab. His defiance flared. He slammed his coffee mug down, brown liquid sloshing. I deserve this. You get it if you weren't so obsessed with being a victim. I stood, heart pounding. If you won't own the truth, I'll show it to everyone. I walked out, his shouts fading behind me. That confrontation hardened my resolve. Back in Atlanta, Noah read my speech, squeezing my hand. You're doing this right, he said. Lily designed my slides. Clara offered to attend the gala for backup. My chosen family had my back, unlike the one I was born into. I practiced my words, visualizing the grand coastal hotel's ballroom. Its chandeliers glowing over Ethan played the dutiful sun. My Lockhart Prize announcement, set for the day after the gala, would amplify my voice, a $2 million grant and national spotlight they couldn't ignore. As the gala neared, I felt a strange peace. This wasn't revenge, it was liberation. I'd spent decades shrinking to fit their narrative, Ethan the star, Emma the afterthought. No more. I'd step into the light, not to burn them, but to claim my place. The gala would be their reckoning. And mine. What happened when I took the stage will shock you. You're not going to want to miss it. With the truth about my stolen $200, 000 trust fund, and Ethan's leeching laid bare in that Savannah cafe, I left Ethan's denial behind and focused on the gala. His smirk, "You're just jealous, Emma," only steeled me. My parents' 40th anniversary at the Grand Coastal Hotel was days away, and I was ready to step out of the shadows. I'd spent a lifetime chasing their love, only to nearly die while they toasted Ethan's ego. No more. My presentation was locked in, slides of my cancer research, the Lockhart Prize, their debt, Ethan's loans, and my secret support via Grandma's fund. This wasn't about destruction, it was about demanding to be seen. Noah, Lily, and Dr. Clara rallied around me in Atlanta, fine-tuning my speech. "Keep it clear, not cruel," Clara advised, her steady voice grounding me. I rehearsed until my words were sharp but fair, stripping out bitterness. Dr. Lena, my therapist, reminded me, "You're setting a boundary, Emma, not settling a score." I nodded, feeling the weight of 34 years of neglect transform into purpose. I wasn't the dramatic daughter they dismissed in the hospital, fighting sepsis while they partied. I was Dr. Emma Thompson, a scientist changing lives, and they'd know it. I dug deeper into their finances, confirming the gala's excess, $30. 000 on orchids and champagne, partly crowd-funded by relatives Ethan had guilt-tripped. He told them I was too academic to contribute, while my NIH grant and patent savings dwarfed their budget. The irony stung. I'd bailed out their country club membership, yet they'd ignored my dying pleas. My final slide featured the Lockhart Prize announcement, set for the next day. A $2 million grant cementing my name in oncology. They'd have no choice but to face me. The night before the gala, Noah held me as I stared at the ceiling. "You're enough, Emma," he said, kissing my forehead. "You always were." His words carried me to Savannah, where I slipped into a simple black dress, my Lockhart Prize pin my only adornment. I arrived at the hotel late, deliberately Noah at my side. The ballroom glittered, a stage for Ethan's charade as the perfect son. Mom spotted me, her smile thin. "Emma, glad you're feeling better." Dad clapped my shoulder. "Good to see you up, kid." Neither mentioned the hospital, my surgery, or the voicemails they'd ignored. Ethan swooped in, already spinning tales of his heroic gala planning. "Took weeks to nail the flowers," he boasted, oblivious to the planner's work. I smiled tightly, my resolve ironclad. Dinner unfolded, toasts praising Susan and Robert as model parents, Ethan their pride and joy. My name barely surfaced. As dessert plates cleared, Ethan tapped his glass, launching into a video tribute, him front and center, me a footnote in family photos. He segued into his pitch, a $60,000 investment for his new coaching job's relocation. Guests shifted uncomfortably. Dad's face tightened. My moment came. I stood, heart steady, and said, "I have a tribute too." Ethan frowned, but the planner cued my slides. The truth was about to unfold, and nothing would be the same. You'll want to hear what happened next. The Grand Coastal Hotel's ballroom glowed with opulence, but as I stood, the air felt electric with anticipation. Ethan's smug video tribute had just ended, his $60, 000 relocation pitch hanging awkwardly over the gala. My parents, Susan and Robert, clapped politely, unaware of the truth I was about to unveil. I smoothed my black dress, Noah's steady gaze anchoring me. "I'd like to share a tribute for Mom and Dad's 40th, I said, voice clear. Ethan scowled, muttering about the schedule, but the planner dimmed the lights. My slides flickering to life. The first slide showed my Emory lab, my team's cancer research. "I'm Dr. Emma Thompson. I began, lead researcher in oncology, recent Lockhart Prize winner." Murmurs rippled. Guests leaned forward. I clicked through slides. My $1.5 million NIH grant, patents saving lives. my anonymous bailout of their country club via Grandma's fund. Mom's hand flew to her throat. Dad's face paled. "I've supported this family quietly," I said, "but you didn't see me. Not even when I nearly died." The next slide listed Ethan's $500. 000 in loans, my stolen $200,000 trust fund, their mortgaged home. "I called you from my deathbed," I said, eyes on my parents. "You were at Ethan's gala." Phone silent. The room froze. Ethan flushed, stammering, but I pressed on. "This isn't blame. It's truth. I've spent 34 years invisible, my achievements buried under Ethan's spotlight." My final slide flashed the Lockhart Prize. "A $2 million grant announced tomorrow. I hoped you'd celebrate me once, like you do Ethan." I softened. "I love you, but I deserve to be seen." Silence blanketed the room. Mom's eyes glistened. Dad stared, shell-shocked. Ethan slumped, his charm shattered. Scattered applause broke out, led by Clara, growing louder. I sat, Noah squeezing my hand. Guests whispered, some approaching with quiet awe. "We had no idea," one said. My parents didn't move, processing the daughter they'd overlooked. Ethan avoided my gaze, his $60,000 ask now absurd. I hadn't humiliated them, just laid bare a truth they couldn't dodge. Their response was theirs to choose, but I'd claimed my voice. What happened next changed us all. You're not going to want to miss it. The silence in the Grand Coastal Hotel's ballroom after my speech was deafening, my slides still glowing behind me. I'd laid bare my truth, my cancer research, the Lockhart Prize, Ethan's $500, 000 loans, my stolen $200,000 trust fund, and the night I nearly died while they partied. Mom's tears shimmered under the chandeliers. Dad's face was a mask of shock. Ethan sat, deflated, his $60, 000 Gala pitch exposed as selfish. I returned to Noah, my heart pounding but light, finally seen after 34 years of invisibility. The gala limped on, guests murmuring, some approaching me with hushed respect. "Your work's incredible, Emma," a family friend whispered. "They never told us." Mom and Dad avoided me, retreating to their table, while Ethan slipped out, unable to face the crowd's shifted gaze. As people left, Dad approached, his voice low. "We need to talk. Soon." I nodded. I'd like that. It wasn't a grand reconciliation, but a crack in their denial. Days later, they called, asking to meet at a Savannah cafe. They looked older, stripped of their usual polish. "We didn't know the grants, the club," Mom faltered. "Why didn't you tell us?" I met her eyes. Would it have mattered? "You ignored my dying calls." Dad shifted, defensive. "We're not bad parents." I cut in, calm but firm. Intent doesn't erase neglect. I deserved better. The talk stretched hours, painful but real. They asked about my research, listening, maybe for the first time. "We'd like to come to your Lockhart ceremony," Dad said. It was small but a start. Ethan's reaction was Messier. He called, angry, then apologetic, grappling with his shattered image. We met weeks later. He admitted skimming my trust fund, promising to repay. He started therapy, taking a stable job over flashy coaching dreams. My parents attended my Lockhart event, their pride tentative but growing. Old habits crept in. Ethan's name slipped into talks, but they caught themselves more. I healed, too. Noah proposed on a quiet Atlanta night, vowing a family where I'd always be seen. My health stabilized, stress-fueled pains fading. I'd stood in my truth, not to break them, but to free myself. What came next was even bigger. You'll want to hear it. The fallout from the gala reshaped my world. Mom and Dad's tentative steps toward me, attending my Lockhart Prize ceremony, asking about my cancer research, felt like fragile bridges after 34 years of neglect. Ethan, humbled by therapy and a new job, began repaying his $500,000 loans, including my stolen $200, 000 trust fund. They weren't perfect. Old habits of praising Ethan surfaced, but they tried harder to see me. I set firm boundaries, no longer chasing their love. Noah's proposal cemented my new foundation, a family where I'm valued. My health improved, the crippling pains fading as I shed the stress of invisibility. My research soared, with the $2 million Lockhart grant fueling breakthroughs in lung cancer therapies. I started a mentorship program for overlooked scientists, knowing how recognition can change lives. At our small wedding, Dad's toast shocked me. "Emma, we're sorry it took so long to see your strength." Healing wasn't tidy, but it was real. If you felt unseen, set boundaries. Your worth isn't their approval. Write one thing you're proud of today and own it. My story's proof. Truth can free you. Next time, hear how one woman turned pain into a movement. You won't want to miss it.